So hello.
We do want to make everyone aware that we are recording the meetings as well. So let us know if you have any issues with that, but that way we can make this available online to those who weren't able to attend today.
Okay, we will go ahead and get started here. I do want to welcome you all to the discussion for tonight. I'm Jacqueline Smith. I will be your moderator, and Miss Annette will be assisting. We hope that everyone is having a great day on today. Like Miss Annette said, this session will be recorded. Feel free to unmute your mics and jump in and participate in the discussion here in the chat, or message me directly if you would like to, if you'll just like to put a question in that you don't want to ask yourself. We'll go ahead and start it off with a couple of Kickstarter questions, and the same way that you introduce yourself will be the same manner that you answer the following questions, okay? So Kickstarter questions, please introduce yourself and give us a summary of the work you or your organizations provide in the San Antonio community. And Ms. Audrey, we'll start with you.
I'm gonna try to unmute myself. Hey guys, how's it going? Awesome. So my name is Audrey Setterfield. I work at STRAPS. It stands for South Texas Regional Adaptive and Para Sports. So what I do is I help coach and manage all 13 of our adaptive sport programs, such as wheelchair basketball, wheelchair football, any sport for an individual with a physical disability. Actually, Jen as well with Texas Regional Para Sports is kind of another one of our coaches that we have that comes in and helps coach our power soccer team. Basically what we do is we offer a way for anybody with a physical disability to come and participate in sports. And we try to give them as many different opportunities as we can. And that's kind of the basis of what we do. Did I miss the second question?
Okay, Ms. Jennifer?
And that's at Morgan's Wonderland. I think she left that out. That's at Morgan's Wonderland and Morgan's Wonderland Sports. And I'm blessed to contract with them over there. I own Wild at Heart Inclusive Fitness and contract with STRAPS and Texas Regional Para Sport. That's a statewide resource for athletes with disabilities in adapted sports and recreation.
Awesome. Mr. Mike?
Yeah, hi, I'm Mike Bennett with the ARC of San Antonio, and we have two major sets of programming. We do a lot of case management for a couple of state funding programs, CLASS and CSCM, also known as Community Services Case Management. But I think the real reason we're on this call today is because we run what some people would call a dehabilitation program. We call it Adult Life Enrichment. And when we're not under the strictures of COVID, we have two facilities operating, and pre-COVID, we had about 250 folks enrolled, and we saw about 180 a day. Right now, we've got one facility open. We have 38 enrolled, and we're seeing about 25, 26, 27 a day. But as soon as some of these safety restrictions loosen, then we'll be having more of our folks back.
Awesome, awesome. Ms. Deanne?
Hi, my name is Deanne Cuellar. I am the Texas State Director of Older Adults Technology Services and Senior Planet San Antonio, and we work on the intersection of aging and technology. You might be familiar with our award-winning flagship program, Senior Planet, which provides 60 hours a week of virtual programming, pre-pandemic, in person and virtually, but right now we are delivering programming virtually. And I, for myself, outside of OATS, work as a tech equity advocate at the local, state, and federal level to close the digital divide for all communities.
Awesome, awesome. So what were some of the areas where you saw individuals with disabilities challenged during the pandemic? Ms. Audrey?
I would say, as far as our programming goes and the kind of the athletes we serve, number one, I would say transportation. Actually, we have a lot of our athletes who use the VIA transportation system, and with that, there already are several issues to begin with, but on top of COVID, it didn't make things easier, such as we have a visually impaired athlete who needs to get her groceries, needs to have all of the needs that you need in a normal day to life, your food, your resources, everything. And so I would say kind of number one, our most impacted was because of transportation. And I would say including that would be transportation to healthcare, transportation to anywhere. And so I'd say that's kind of our number one for our athletes.
Awesome, awesome. Miss Jennifer?
Sorry, Jacqueline, what organization are you with?
I'm the CEO of the Jacqueline Smith Foundation here in San Antonio. We assist veterans. We assist active duty military veterans, homeless veterans, and low or underserved communities in San Antonio. When resources are available, we provide clothing, shoes, and hygiene items, and also food. We offer free financial literacy classes because we're focusing on the homeless side of the veterans. And so with the financial literacy classes, we help them to understand their credit score, help them save and budget so they can get a home and then hopefully get on the road to success. We also offer a navigation of veteran resource class to help them understand what resources are available to them as veterans in San Antonio. And we partner with a lot of other agencies here in San Antonio as well. And we also offer a mental health outreach class, and this is free to the public and to veterans. On the mental health outreach class, we have a licensed counselor that's on the line. So we don't want you to just come to us and dump your problems. We want to offer a solution. So that counselor will have the ability to sign up a new client if they wanted to speak to someone, or you can just kind of talk and receive resources from other organizations.
I love that. Is your website on the Disability SA panel page also?
I'm not sure, but I can tell Natalia or Miss Melody. It's the jsmithfoundation.org.
Can you?
And if you want to send me a private message, you can do that. My telephone number is 210-646-8408. That way we can go ahead and just kind of stick to the topics here because this is timed.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
I was just curious where you and Annette were from, so I knew who all was in the room. So repeat your question that I'm answering, please.
Okay, what were some of the areas where you saw individuals with disabilities challenged during the pandemic?
So definitely isolation, right? Our programs provide huge social networks. So being isolated from that was the biggest thing that I saw. And so we immediately went to virtual programming to combat that.
Awesome, awesome. Mike?
Yeah, I would chime in on the same thing. We had to close the program, the physical portion of the program, on March 17th a year ago. And so basically, we have done what we can do with virtual programming. One of the disadvantages for us is trying to reach out to 250 people. There is no, at least to the best of our understanding, there's no a reimbursement from the state as a trade-off to folks not coming physically to a center to have virtual programming provided. But we've had a lot of good success with that. We're going to continue it. And when we get folks back, we're still going to be providing virtual and hybrid kinds of things we're doing in the building, we're going to broadcast out as well.
Awesome, awesome. I think that's great because a lot of people are excited to not to be able to come in, you know, having that virtual service. So that's great. Miss Deanne?
I think for me, what needs to be reassessed and talked about more publicly is the fact that, one, before the pandemic, we told so many people living with disabilities, including seniors, that virtual programming wasn't a possibility. And because it impacted so many K through 12 students, it became a possibility. So I think we need to call out that discrimination. There are K through 12 students and older adults that have been asking for access to virtual everything for years. And when a global pandemic hit, it all of a sudden became available. So I think we need to have a really difficult conversation about how we treated people with disabilities unfairly before the pandemic. And secondly, I would say that we have made great strides in talking about the digital divide. Now we're all talking about it more. Now it's in the mainstream media, and the local, state, and federal government has earmarked millions of dollars nationwide to close the gap for K through 12 students. But I think we can walk and chew gum at the same time, which I know is an ableist term to use. But the truth is that we still, we know that 72% of people over 60 are living with one or more disabilities. And even if you're not an older adult, there are still really large pockets of our community living with one or more disabilities. So what's wrong with that is that we've earmarked millions of dollars to close the digital divide for K through 12 students, which is important. But we should be equally making sure that all people living with disabilities, especially older adults, have the same access to the internet, same access to the device programs, the internet utility cost coverage programs, and the digital literacy programs for telehealth, online prescriptions, and also just for like socialization, social gathering. It shouldn't just be all about telehealth and online prescriptions. I think disability communities need safe and supportive environments for organizing as a community.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree. What were some of the achievements you experienced during the pandemic to serve the local community? Ms. Audrey?
I'd say achievements would be staying in touch, trying to eliminate as much isolation as possible. So we kind of took that downtime because we didn't have as many programs going on as a way to reach out and spend the time we actually needed to individually reach out to every single one of our athletes. And so I'd say that's kind of the number one, as well as we actually created a new program because of COVID, which was different. So usually what we do is we have group programs like group practices, but we actually added a one-on-one program. So because we know how important mental health is to everybody, we realize that if you're not comfortable coming back to a group program, we can offer a one-on-one. That way that they're still getting out of the house, they're still trying to socialize, they're still kind of moving forward. And so I'd say that was the biggest achievement.
Awesome. What about you, Ms. Jennifer?
Yes, definitely. So I think the virtual programming that we quickly created, we had 4 virtual classes a week. So they had something 4 days out of the week to participate in virtually. And then whenever we were able to, we started back outdoor programming with small numbers, whereas we used to do indoor, but we kind of shifted and moved to outdoor programming, and then now doing some hybrid stuff. So just really shifting with the times to keep our people engaged.
Mr. Mike?
Yeah, what they said, basically, we sort of morphed early on from a lot of socialization online so that folks could see each other, because they couldn't see each other. And then we started to shift it. So we still had some points in the week where you could do that, but we also added art classes. We added just basically some skills of daily living that folks were probably getting a little rusty at. And so we keep morphing it. We keep changing it. We're taking folks around town and showing them particular sites that when they're comfortable going back out in the community, they might want to go out and see. So that kind of thing, I think, has helped a lot.
Awesome. Awesome. Deanne?
We were in the process of developing virtual programming before COVID. So we had the Zoom rooms, but the global pandemic forced us to go live soon. So I think the biggest success is that people told us that older adults would not be able to adopt online communities, and we proved them wrong. We've got Zooms as small as 30 to 50 people, all the way up to over 10,000 people that take place. And the people that are attending are in their 70s, 80s, and 90s. So I think that, the success is that we proved them wrong, and that it doesn't matter how old you are, you can still keep learning.
Absolutely. And they really love it. They are so in tune to that. They're really looking forward. It gives them something to look forward to. It's really awesome. Great job, you guys. What resources are available through your organization or other partnering organizations that could relieve some of the stresses people are experiencing right now? Ms. Audrey?
Well, I'd say because Straps is a part of an amazing organization, I'm sure you've heard of Morgan's Wonderland. Because of that, being a part of that organization, we have so many different connections throughout the community. as well as like Texas Regional Parasport and just a bunch of different agencies that we are already partnered with to begin with. We can give them different resources. So like Jen was saying, they had virtual sessions. Well, if we didn't have a yoga, we don't provide a yoga. Well, here's a way to do yoga. Here's a way to do something that we don't have. And so I'd say that was probably the biggest.
Okay.
So definitely, I think the resources that we have to offer are those ongoing programs and special events. All of our programs are free and outdoors right now, small group. And so I think that's the best resource we have to offer. And you can find that information. We try to list all upcoming adapted sports and ongoing programs at texasregionalsport.org. I think that's our best resource.
Awesome. Mr. Mike?
Yeah, we have a department called Family Support Services, and that really their workload has picked up quite a bit because more and more individuals and families are confused about what can they do now, where can they go for certain types of assistance, and that's an office that we created specifically to answer those questions and to make referrals to folks who can provide those services. And I'll bet you that the folks in that department know every, organization, not only in this chat room, but on the entire call. And they know enough about you to know whether to point someone if you have a need that they can meet. So that's, I think, the way we're trying to assist.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Miss Deanne?
Seniorplanet.org and agingconnected.org, the two online communities that we built. I'm really proud of those resources. We've talked about developing them, specifically the Alamo area tablet program, which lives on seniorplanet.org. Again, the simple solution of distributing a device connected to free internet, kitted with the printed materials, that were age friendly, again, like a model that people said was just too simple and couldn't be done. I'm really proud of that. During the winter storm, people lost power, they lost electricity, they lost their internet, and we were still able to talk to seniors and keep them healthy.
Awesome. That's amazing. What does recovery and resiliency look like within your industry as we come out of the pandemic and move forward? Ms. Audrey?
I think kind of as we come out, it kind of goes back to what was said earlier about the purpose of programs, like she said, intentional, inclusive, and empowering. I think that kind of goes back to that because I think through what we've all kind of gone through together, I think that shows a lot. And so kind of what I had just written down is continuing to give resources, continuing to do our ongoing programs, continuing to do the things that we're doing for our participants and for our athletes as we move forward, just to continue to push, continue to reach out, continue to socialize, continue to do everything that we're doing.
Absolutely. Ms. Jennifer?
I think on the recovery and resiliency spectrum, we're doing a great job of slowly and safely getting people back engaged. We just had Texas Regional Games this past weekend for 200 adapted athletes, and just making sure from head to toe we have those guidelines in place, and X, Y, and Z with the temperature checks, the social distancing, the masks, the cleaning, extra volunteers to do all that cleaning. Really, this weekend showed us that we are moving in the right direction, and we can do this hybrid format or in person. If you put the right steps in place, we can recover and move forward.
Awesome. Mike?
Yeah, I think for us, because we have been historically a physical, presence program, the resilience is bringing folks back with recognition of how they need to be accommodated in a time when you still have to be careful. We serve a very broad variety of folks, from folks who are basically would be considered on the high performing spectrum, all the way to folks who need all of their, daily living needs taken care of by a caregiver. And so as we bring them back, we're going to have to be careful to make sure that they're safe and that our folks are safe. But at the same time, we want to get them back out in the community. We want to lend some more normalcy to going back to parks, movie theaters, and so forth, as that can be accommodated. So that's really the art here. And of course, we also have to wait for the folks who set those rules in place to say, yes, we're at a point where we can ease off on them. So.
Right, right. Ms. Dan?
I agree with Mike. I'm going to add that's what I really believe we need to be focusing on right now if we're involved in the reopening efforts. You know, the entire city, you know, spent the last 18 months, you know, at home for the most part, right? It's, you know, there were essential workers, there were those of us that couldn't stay home, but a lot of people for the first time in their lifetime were introduced to what we live with every day. You know, different people, different disabilities live with every day. So I think if we truly want to reopen, then I think we need to be focusing on like what real public accommodations look like, have really difficult conversations about, you know, making sure that the community all of the community can participate. You know, there were so many public and private, you know, spaces that were not accommodating before the pandemic. And so we really mean that we want to all be out, go back to the restaurants, go back to government buildings and welcome people back to our public and private institutions. I think we still have some work to do. And if we can't do it now, then we will never get to it. So we need to get to it as soon as possible.
Absolutely, absolutely. Those are great answers. Great answers. Great answers. Okay, what are some of the areas where you've identified changes could or should be made to ensure individuals with disabilities don't experience the hardships and setbacks we saw occur during the pandemic? Or what were your lessons learned during the pandemic? If you need me to repeat that, I will.
I'm just kidding.
Audrey?
I definitely think so. Like, kind of part of the second question, what were the lessons learned during the pandemic? I'd say the biggest one that kind of stuck out was, especially for our participants, was mental health. And that's something that is a huge, huge, huge passionate thing for me. I truly believe in mental health and talking about it and moving forward and things like that. And so I think that one lesson that we learned is whether there's a pandemic or not, that mental health is important. And so I think that talking about it and having conversations like this with organizations that all help those with disabilities is a start. And I know that this has kind of been going on for a long time. This is my first one, but I just think that that's mental health. I think that there is so much more room for improvement on how to kind of move forward with that, whether you have a disability or not. And so I just don't want those with disabilities to be kind of put under the radar when it comes to mental health, just because they deal with A, B, and C, and D on a regular basis. They may kind of think, oh, mental health is just something that only those without a disability may deal with. That's incorrect. But I don't know, I can talk about mental health all day. I get super passionate about it. But that's kind of my main one.
Okay, Ms. Jennifer?
So lessons learned, for me, this pandemic really just validated the importance of what we do, right? Providing that social connectedness, and talked to so many people, and just really validated what we do and how important it is, not just for that physical benefit, but that mental, emotional, social benefit. And then really changes that we've identified. And one of the things I identified over the pandemic is communication, right? How we communicate, how we're getting the information out. For example, I'm sure none of y'all on this call had heard of Texas Regional Parasport before this call. So just really analyzing how we're getting the information out. We have great opportunities in the community that are free, but who the heck knows about them? Right. So that's one of the big focus areas for me.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing for everyone. That's kind of the uphill battle, trying to get that information out, and the digital divide and things like that. That's really an uphill battle, and I don't foresee it going anywhere anytime soon. Mike?
Well, I think two things. The whole digital issue is a huge issue, and we've all talked about how we've tried to address things. I think our populations will be much more engaged with us if something happens again, because the simple fact is something's going to happen again. The other piece of that I'd like to think, and this is where I get sort of on my soapbox about as a nation, we have to step up right at the beginning of something like this and do the right stuff to minimize the impact. Well, we've got a pretty good example, with no offense intended to anybody, of how not to do it. Hopefully we take all that we've learned and we make this much better the next time, so that the instant we start to get a sense, the entire population responds to it in such a way that our folks don't have to stop coming. They may mask up, they may wear a shield, but we can still see them. We can still have them in. We may moderate what we do, but we can still have that kind of thing, which will contribute to better mental health. It'll contribute to better physical health, because we do know that for a lot of our folks, they didn't get out much during this last year. And we've seen the average weight and, BMI and those kinds of things that we track all go up. So bottom line is, that sounds like a pretty big order, but I think we all have to be prepared to respond immediately. And we know now how to do that. And if we'll do that, we're going to be in better situation.
Absolutely. Miss Deanne?
I echo everything what everybody already says. I agree, mental health. I also think that trust, lessons learned is trust. I think that there are all these task forces and groups and all of these mobilizations that happened. And, at the end of it all, it was the communities that were the most impacted that had the results and the solutions that we could point to, right? So, you can move at the speed of light if the trust is there. If it's not there, then it's going to be slow and it's going to be dragged out, and mistakes are going to be made, right? And you're going to have to fix it. But, if you trust the communities that you're trying to work with, or, serve with services, and just get things out the door, like a global pandemic, like things could happen a lot quicker. So I think we need to, have a larger conversation about trusting the communities like those on the call that do this work every day, that can point to the pain points quickly. And I think, I have a lot to say about the winter storm. We definitely, with so many people, with so many differences, we need to have a broader conversation about what a smart community infrastructure looks like. And those people who, myself included, who are living with disabilities, I think we should have been better prepared.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. We have about 5 minutes left, so I'm going to ask one more question, and then we'll wrap up there so that you'll be able to go into your next section. What are some tips to ensure we provide as much digital access as possible? Ms. Audrey?
I'd say kind of what we've said in the past, a couple conversations, is having the resources, giving them all the resources, having these connections with the people in the breakout rooms, things like that, giving them the resources.
Okay, Jennifer?
I think for me, it's just remembering the importance, even as we move forward and go back to in-person, the benefit of the virtual and telehealth programs. So not forgetting that hybrid model, because everyone's comfort level varies significantly. So, even though I'm 100% comfortable getting back into the community, my participants may not be for another year. So really keeping that hybrid model at the forefront of my mind.
Mike?
Well, stole my speech, because hybrid is the way to go, simply because we've got folks who we would have back right now. They meet all of our standards for coming back, but their families aren't ready, or they're not ready. They just don't feel comfortable. So we continue to do that outreach. But I think the other thing we're trying to do is to provide our folks a sense of the importance of doing everything they can, reaching out for resources and so forth, to get more access online, in whatever way they possibly can, because simply put, we can't do what we're going to be doing going forward, none of us, if we don't have a solid, fast connect to our folks. That's just the way it is. And I realize that's a big societal issue, but it has to be addressed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Ms. Deanne? Did he steal your speech as well?
I agree with everything with all y'all on this call. So I consider y'all allies. Everything's online. So therefore everyone should be online, right? If everything's online, then all of us need to be online. You know, you have to have all three. You have to have a device, you have to have literacy competency, and you have to have access to the internet. You have to have all three in order for us to be on the other side of the divide. And right now, the launch of the Emergency Broadband Benefit Program, EBB, it's a once in a lifetime federal subsidy that's going to provide up to $50 a month for high-speed internet access, wired or wireless, to an individual with a $100 rebate for a device. I think the city of San Antonio needs to be up on the top of the leaderboard for how many people we've connected to the internet through that program, because there's so many people that are qualified for it. So we can't just stand back and let that thing happen without the community being involved. So I hope that we are involved in that conversation when the city starts having it, and rolls out that program locally. And I hope we can work together to just pull people into that program and get them the federal subsidies that belongs to them.
Absolutely, absolutely. All great answers. I do want to commend you all for everything that you are doing in the community, going above and beyond for your people, you know, being those advocates and just kind of making everybody feel as comfortable as possible. I know everyone took hits in some form or fashion for them not being able to come in, or, you know, having to just kind of transform everything that you're doing. So, my hat goes off to everyone. Keep doing the wonderful jobs that you're doing in our community, and thank you for joining us this evening. Right. So you guys can go out. We'll be going into the other rooms here. We had 1 minute left, you guys. So.
Component. We don't do a lot of data, you know, and surveys and research. So I loved the survey and sharing of those results. That was beneficial for me.
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting that, you know, a lot of people had the socialization, you know, and connection to other people, like above some of the other needs. And to see that across the board for everyone, I think it says a lot about, you know, how much we need each other in the community, and the more and more access that we have for connecting with each other and finding new ways to connect is even more important going forward, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
I definitely am excited to watch the recording, especially the transportation breakout session. Like Audrey was saying earlier, we have a lot of participants that struggle with transportation. So I'm excited to see that recording.
Yeah, I agree. I've thought a lot of the topics that are being presented, they all connect with each other in some way or another, and it'll be very interesting to see how people are responding to the questions in those breakout rooms as well. Well, good. It is 7:05, and I'm not sure if we're going to have anybody else join us, but we can go ahead and get started. And since Karen's our only participant here, I'm going to have each of you introduce yourselves along with the organizations that you represent, and talk a little bit about the programs that your organization offers. So Audrey, can we start with you at STRAPS?
Yes, ma'am. So my name is Audrey Setterfield. I work at STRAPS. So that stands for South Texas Regional Adaptive and Para Sports. So what we do is we offer 13 different adaptive sport programs for individuals with physical disabilities and visual impairments. So we offer sports like wheelchair football, wheelchair soccer, bocce, goalball, for any individual with physical disabilities, whether they utilize a power chair or a wheelchair. So that's me. Oh, also, we're located at Morgan's Wonderland. I missed that last time.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Jennifer.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jennifer Weatherford. Yes, I go by Jen. I own Wild at Heart Inclusive Fitness, and I contract with like Straps and Texas Regional Paris Sport is the main organization that I contract with to provide adapted sports in the community for kids, adults, military community. And it really varies from recreation, you know, leisure education, all the way up to the Paralympic pipeline. And I'm a recreation therapist.
Amazing, amazing. And Mike Bennett from the Arc of San Antonio.
Yeah, hi, Karen. The Arc of San Antonio provides a couple of different services. The major one, and the reason we're on this call, is because we run a day habilitation or an adult, day program, but specifically for IDD individuals. And pre-COVID, we had about 250 folks. Right now, we have 38, but that's okay. You know, we're all got to get back on that upwardly thrusting vector, as they say in the Air Force. The big deal for us, just as it is with Audrey and with Jennifer, is that we provide experiences. We provide experiences, socialization, health information, and recreation, and so forth, to a wide variety of folks between the hours of 8:15 and 3 o'clock. That not only serves them, but in many cases it serves their caregivers, because they need that break, whether to work or to do the many other things that they've got to get accomplished. And so that's one of the biggest things as we go through this session that's been hard for those families, is they had a solution to their weekly schedule. And then March 17th, 2020, boom, that solution departed. So we really want to get back to the point where we are their go-to again. We also do case management. We do referral and so forth across the community. And I think that's a very strong part of what we do as well.
Great, great. I'm going to kind of launch off some of the discussion that came in through the first session. Deanne, we had talked about some of the challenges that we saw individuals with disabilities face during the pandemic. And Deanne Queller, who's with Senior Planet, she talked a lot about the access to the internet, and how this demographic was overlooked, and basically things were not seen as being feasible to provide until we saw children, trying to get through school, and, suddenly it was like, oh yes, we can find a way to provide this. And so we talked about, at the end of the session, some tips on how do we ensure that we provide as much digital access as possible. So if each of you can talk about, again, that thought of how we can make things more accessible digitally, and how have you overcome some of those challenges in your programming during COVID? And Audrey, we can start with you.
So digitally, we did not have any virtual sessions. However, we did offer there for a little while. We offered, for each sport, each team, we would offer like a get together, like a virtual get together. So it was more of just to keep the isolation and the feeling of the socialization, whether it be through a screen or not. However, yes, we did come across the barriers of not having access to a computer that has a camera and things like that. But I would say some tips and things like that would be to continue to be a part of calls like this and Zoom calls like this, where we can have resources, give this, give that. I know this contact, great, here's that, as well as just continue to give any resource that we have.
Wonderful. Great. And Jennifer, we'll go to you.
Yes. So to bridge that gap, we were able to offer virtual programs. We had 4 virtual programs a week, and we did it via Facebook Live. We did some Zoom meetings, but honestly, so we did a hybrid at the beginning. Again, we're community-based, so we are not clinical. So we were able to, we don't have the quite as much red tape as I think a lot of some of the other organizations do. So we were very blessed to be able to do the Zoom and Facebook Live hybrid. And then honestly, after several classes, I saw that no one was really doing the Zoom. And I think the difference there with the Facebook Live, they see me, but I don't see them working out. So I think, right, they're not quite as confident. So they were more comfortable with that. They could see me, but I could not see them. So we had a lot of success with those Facebook Live videos. And you can even still go to our Facebook page, Texas Regional Paris Sport. And there's a lot of those videos still out there. And then also something special I think about Texas Regional and Paris Sport and Straps is we are chapters of Move United Sport. It's a nationwide organization, and they have a whole Adapt at Home initiative, and there's literally thousands of videos, whether it's walking or lifting weights or just kind of circuit stuff or yoga or sports specific stuff. That Move United Sport / Adapt at Home was a great resource for our participants, as well as the virtual classes that we were offering.
Wow, that's terrific. That's exciting. And Mike, how about you?
Yeah, well, again, we started rather slowly. We did not have a virtual program when COVID hit. So it took us a little while to get geared up, and most of it at the beginning was socialization. It was designed as a way to let our folks see each other, because in some cases, folks came to us 5 days a week. They were used to their buds and their fans and their gang, and none of that was happening. So, but then we realized we needed to expand off of that and at least try to provide some fun content and some interesting content. And so as the months have gone by, we have done that. And we're to the point now where we're doing 2 hours a day, for our folks, that anybody who's associated with the ARC can sign into. We haven't gone outside of our current client base of 250, primarily because we sort of wanted to serve them first, and we didn't have a good way to be secure about it and to bring folks into what was, at least for our folks, a known community. We have two facilities, and the folks at West Avenue and the folks that were on Wurzbach at the Pam Stevens Center, they like each other, but they're also competitive with each other. In normal times, we play basketball, and the word goes out on Friday, who won the Friday basketball game. So my point is, we're trying to draw everybody together, give them a palette or a menu of things to choose from. Some choose some don't choose any. But the bigger issue is making it as straightforward for families and participants to have access. Because I'm not going to tell you, we have a lot of our folks involved in this. And I think part of that's because either they don't have the access at home, or they may have access, but they don't have time to assist their family member with the tools of getting them on board. And that I think is a big problem as well. So we're doing what we can to try to give that instruction and so forth.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yes, I do have a couple of questions that were emailed into us. Speaking of, offering these sessions digitally, there's a question that came in from the Salsa organization. It's the Adult Years Vocational Program at SAISD, and they were wondering if there was information on upcoming Zoom sessions and appointments that can be set up for their adult students. Mike, you mentioned that a lot of the programs that you offer do target older students. Can you talk about
that's correct.
that might be available to? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, anybody associated with us is welcome to sign on, but basically they are designed for adults 18 and older. And so if someone has interest, they should certainly get in touch with us, and we'll see what we can do, to perhaps make that connection, because it's the part of the program that hasn't expanded yet. Part of that's because we have not had a dedicated person to drive it. We've had to sort of, pick up here and there with different staff members. We have hopes that by this summer, we will have a dedicated person for that role. And they'll not only be the producer and the provider, if you will, of those sessions, but they'll also be the content producer as well. And that doesn't mean they won't steal somebody else's content. We're very happy. We have multiple relationships with museums, the River Authority, and others. And sometimes we pick up their content and their people, and they actually do programming for us about particular items. So we want to expand that out as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. And yes, I see that Jennifer, you sent me a link to a resource that would
Yes.
address that question. Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to put that Move United Sport link up there because I know she's, says would like upcoming information on Zoom sessions. So again, those are up. So I know it's not a Zoom session, but they could go and watch it, or their clients, participants can go and watch it whenever they want. So I wanted to share that.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. And how about you, Audrey?
I was actually going to mention the Movie United link to you anyway, so Jen.
Terrific, terrific. And I know Deanne Queller, she was with Senior Planet, so we'll make sure that our participants know about that organization as well, because obviously they're meeting that need in that demographic as well. So I have some questions from folks about what programs or events are currently being hosted in person. So I think some people are anxious to try to get back out and in person, and especially with vaccines being rolled out. So are any of you providing some in-person events or programs right now? Audrey, you want to start?
So I'll go ahead. 100% so far of our stuff right now is all in person, thankfully.
Wow.
We don't have the normal number of participants, but that's okay. We still offer the programs because we know those that need to get out are coming out to the programs. So what we offer, what I can do to make it a little bit easier, is I can upload or put our straps link in there to our calendar, and that has a list of every sport that we have going on throughout the week, the times, the locations, and everything on there. But a kind of a quick summary is we are offering softball, wheelchair softball on Monday nights, tennis on Tuesday nights, track and field on Wednesday nights, pickleball, it's a great sport, everybody should try it, on Thursday nights, nothing so far on Fridays. We also are offering, it is not on our calendar, but if you look at any of the Morgan's Wonderland or Straps Facebook and Instagram pages, we are offering Super Sport Saturdays, which we've kind of included another program. We have an inclusive program, which is just kind of being kickstarted. And that is for any individual with an intellectual disability or learning disability. And what a Super Sport Saturday is, for anybody who doesn't know, is that it's basically what we do is we offer 3 different sports that day, and they can come and register and sign up. And so like the last one that we just had was specifically for our Straps athletes, and we did wheelchair football, ultimate frisbee, and softball.
Wow.
And so what it is they get to come out and participate in all 3 of the different sports. We kind of put them in little groups, COVID-friendly groups, and so that you're not kind of crossing paths, getting to just try different sports, get out in the public, be a part of something, as well as kind of for our inclusive program, I know we've done basketball and things like that. However, that's a big one that we have.
And
Go ahead, Jen.
before you move on, babe, the Super Sports Saturday, right? A lot of our ongoing programs, we have beginner athletes, and it's very introductory, but that's what's really special about the Super Sports Saturday is it's very introductory, and all equipment is provided, all staffing are provided. It's ran by recreation therapists, so they don't have to have the equipment. They come, they get registered, and then they show up, and we take care of them. So we get them the equipment, we get them fitted, we have people that can hang with them and assist and educate. So it's a very non-threatening environment, and it's also at their amazing new complex Morgan's Wonderland Sports.
Wow.
That is all open air and outdoors.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Amazing.
So all of those safety concerns you're taking into consideration as well and able to provide that
Absolutely.
safe environment. That's wonderful.
The last program that we do offer, which I kind of mentioned in the last group, was our one-on-ones. That's not on our calendar. That's not any part of the STRAPS calendar. That's more kind of internal. But if there are athletes or participants who still don't feel comfortable coming out to the group settings and the group practices, we still want those to come out and not isolate themselves and work on their socialization, work on their emotional, cognitive, spiritual, all of their domains coming out. And what they get to do is they get to sign up. I send out a link and they get to sign up for whatever sport they want, whether they have a chair or not. We have it, we have the equipment, we have the staff. That way that they just get a chance to kind of get out. For example, I kind of want to share a small little story. I'll hurry. But we have an athlete who he came out to a tennis one-on-one last week. He's an older 65-year-old man, had not been physically active in 6 years.
Wow.
To a one-on-one program because he's not quite there for the group setting stuff yet, but he's moving forward in that process. And so I just wanted to share that. I think that was really cool. But I'll share that link for everyone here to our STRAPS calendar for you guys.
Absolutely. That's exciting. That's exciting. Wonderful. And Mike, do you have you mentioned you're not doing anything right now, but do you have things that are foreseeable in the near future that you'll be able to offer live?
Well, compared to these two ladies, I'm going to cry because we don't have anything. You know, our big issue is simply this: we don't have the facilities for that sort of thing. We were designed from the beginning as an in-house, in-building rehabilitation that has a variety of activities in normal times where we go out in the community. So as a matter of fact, during the summer, we visit Morgan's, we visit Inspiration Island. We'll be coming to the park, you know, we'll be bringing people when we think it's safe to do that. But the advantage that I'm glad they have is that they are outside and they're able to do these things. We unfortunately don't have that right now. And until we can figure out how to manage the transportation and movement of a significant number of people who still need to stay masked and have some kind of distance involved, it's put us in a little bit of a box. Having said that, folks get out for a walk or tricycle races or some kind of activity every day outside. It's springtime. We're getting ready to completely redo our gardening area and get that up and running.
Right.
So, you know, we have our level of activity going. It's just not as much as we'd like.
Right. Well, hopefully we'll all be able to get there soon. Yes. Finally, and I definitely want to leave time for any questions from others. We have a question about current Zoom opportunities, like regular meetings where folks can have safe socialization for individuals with disabilities. If you have any links or resources of times and meetings where people can join in for social time and, you know, just be able to spend time with others and not feel isolated, you know, please share that. If any of you want to chime in, please do, or put it in the chat.
We don't have any, you know, like coffee talk or, you know, virtual happy hours. We personally do not have anything like that going on. I think those are great things.
Yes. Great. Mike, did you?
Yeah, I guess our version of that for our folks is we have more game kinds of situations. Today was The Price is Right. Another day will be Jeopardy. Another day will be other types of things. But we're also, like I say, we're focusing some on skills that when folks were in attendance, we worked on them within our rooms. Now we're doing them on a hybrid basis. So at least once a week, there's a virtual shopping expedition to acquire the ingredients for a meal that on the afternoon session will actually be prepared, you know, virtually. So, you know, those kinds of things we're starting to get better at with every week that goes by. It's just not as straightforward, perhaps, although we do have a standard Wednesday, 11 a.m. social hour called the Social Sphere. And folks come on and we ask them specific questions just to get the conversation started. But quite frankly, that's not usually a problem. The conversation takes off as soon as the connection goes up.
That's great. Well, if you wouldn't mind sharing a link to where people can, to sign up for those type of events, and put that in the chat, and we'll make sure that's available for folks as
Okay.
well.
Okay.
Wonderful, wonderful. Audrey, did you have anything you wanted to add to that question?
I would just say, I guess, kind of going back to Jen's link with the Move United, having ones that are already there. As Straps, we don't have anything currently. However, my only, I guess, input to that is we just don't have the staff, unfortunately, I guess, to kind of plan those virtual sessions as well as all of the in-person programming that we have. But I would say Move United is a great resource. So
Great, wonderful. And I think I'll just close up with any questions from Karen or others that might have joined us.
Annette, can you hear me? This is
Yeah.
Todd.
Hi, Todd.
Hey, I wish that we had a chance to introduce me and Ariana. I might have missed Ariana Sylvia and Karen's introduction. If I did, I apologize. I didn't get a chance to introduce myself. I don't so much care about that, except that I hope that we can carry on this conversation beyond. I think it's, this is an amazing venue for us to talk. I'm with Professional Contract Services, PCSI, whatever that means, in San Antonio. And we help, I'm in the employment side of it, right? And just on a quick note, I've worked with some of you here. Audrey's seen you all over San Antonio. You don't know that, but I have. And Mike, I know you from way back in the Red Cross days. And I just want to say that Audrey and Annette and Mike, I love your touch of gray. I think that's very coming of you, and I think that's your crown of glory. So I'll close my point with that. I'm in the employment business, and we've been able to help in San Antonio. I've been able to help personally with the help of a couple of people, Mike, like Julia, place about 450 young adults in businesses around San Antonio. And that's a great number, but a better number. Thank you so much, Jennifer. A better number, and we work closely with Morgan's, of course. We've placed a lot of people there. We work with the sports folks as well. I'm an ultimate Frisbee freak and a marathon runner, so I'm all about you guys, right? But the number that I love most about what we do is, of the 450 that I've helped place, about 400 of them are still working, right? We follow all of them from the beginning to end. We don't need VRS. We don't need their monies. I love those guys, but they're very slow. Mike can tell you some stories about that, but we're not going to go there. And we don't need their funds, and we just, we move on. My CEO, Mr. Carol Schubert, who was a city councilman, just retired. We took on a 2-star general by the name of Tony Cuccolo. Mike, I hope you can meet him. Let's get us together. Great guy, just took our company. We're a large company who helps young adults of all kinds, and we want to help them in every facet possible. Jobs is our business, but you know what? We do sports. We do any kind of advocacy that's going to get them out of the house, moving, shaking, living life, right? So I hope we can spend more time later, Annette. I know our time is kind of short here.
Yes.
I'll shut up, and I want to meet Ariana and Sylvia when we get a chance.
Thank you. And yeah, Ariana and Sylvia, do you have any questions for our facilitators and some of the things that they've talked about today?
I don't, but it was interesting hearing what all goes on in the sports area. It's very interesting.
Yes, and we had some wonderful leading questions in the first part of our room sessions. So we invite you to, take a look at those. We're recording those, and those will be available online. So anybody that missed those introductory questions that we had during that session, please take a look at that video and tune into all the wonderful offerings that these organizations are providing. And as we mentioned, during the time of COVID, as we saw in that opening presentation, we realized that across the board, we all missed each other. It was the socialization and the connection, that everybody suffered so much from. And it's great to hear about these programs that are helping to keep people connected and really keep us all connected together in all of our abilities. So. Any other questions or comments?
I just want, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I was just gonna say, I wanted to say thank you. I jumped in on this because there wasn't anyone who wanted to talk about food insecurity, which is good, I guess. And I super appreciate all of these programs. Interest here came from the area that we serve, those with Alzheimer's and dementia, because we are not able to serve them in person the way we normally would, because obviously of the illnesses that they're living with. So it's been very interesting to hear everything that everyone else has been talking about that they're doing with their population.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yes, and I guess one last just cap question for Audrey and Jennifer. Is Mike still with us, or did he leave?
Nope,
Oh,
I'm here.
there's Mike.
Yep.
Is just, again, just recapping about the lessons that you learned during pandemic. If we can recap that for this group here. Audrey, can we start with you?
Yeah, so kind of what I hit on earlier was a lot about mental health and learning how important mental health is to everyone, whether you have a disability or not. And so what a big portion, wow, words, of what I learned is that just because you have a disability, you also may have a mental health disability as well, just like everybody in the world does. I feel like that's kind of something that nobody really talks about anymore, or slowly kind of starting to talk about. And so that was really the main one, is just how much isolation has kind of impacted everybody's mental health. And I think that that's why, based on kind of like the survey, that social interaction is kind of, I think that they kind of play hand in hand with each other. And so as a part of STRAPS, yes, we do provide physical activity, but we also know that physical activity can help with your mental health. And so that's, again, why we started the one-on-one program, is we know, I'm so sorry we can't have group practices just yet, but please come out. We want to make it as safe as we possibly can. Come out, whether it's me and you, whether it's me and my boss, whether it's you and a friend that you trust, great. Like, come on out. We know that mental health is super, super important. And so I think that was a huge lesson for everybody, is mental health.
Thank you. And Jennifer, how about you?
Yeah, really backing up what Audrey has to say, you know, the importance, the pandemic validated the importance that the important social connectedness that our programs provide, right? That address that mental health, that address that isolation. So really just validated the need for our programs. And I think give us time to really evaluate how we get that program information out. We've got amazing outdoor free programming for people with disabilities, but probably, you know, a lot of people on this call had no idea. Like, I was doing hiking today with people with disabilities, and one of my participants used VIA. He would not have been able to participate if it were not for VIA. But just, again, right, we're so busy doing programming, we don't get the word out to people who aren't in our silo. So just really working on getting that information out to people in different networks is a big lesson learned that we need to address. Me personally, that I want to address.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. And Mike?
Yeah, the soapbox I climbed on the last half hour, I haven't gotten off of it yet. I think the lesson we've all got to learn from this, not just this group, but our nation, we've got to learn to respond quickly and appropriately when this happens again, or something similar. You know, I used to be, you heard Todd say, I used to be with the American Red Cross. Well, our version of it back then was disaster preparedness. We taught people what to do to be ready for the flood, the tornado, the hurricane, and so forth. Well, this is that kind of thing, except on a much more personal, literally person by person basis. And it covers the whole place. It's not just a tornado in somebody's neighborhood. So I guess what I'm committed to doing is saying to our folks, we need to, in every way possible, prepare ourselves to instantly respond when we think something like that's coming, to carry on the practices that will minimize our risk ongoing, and to work with our participants and our families to say to them, we need you to be ready as well, because otherwise we're going to again get into these long periods of separation and anxiety and stress and all the things that everybody's mentioned on here. And I think the greatest thing in the world would be for when it happens the next time, We all mask up, we all do whatever else is necessary, and we're still able in a more measured way to maintain life. And if we can do that, that will be the outcome from this tragedy that will last a very long time.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you all so much for all the meaningful work that you do. I learned so much today and really have enjoyed the conversation. And we'll look forward to hear more about your work in the future. So stay connected. And yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think we'll move over and join the main room for the final session. Thank you all.
Thank you.